This is The Shift Stories of Resistance and Resilience, a multi platform conversation series produced and hosted by Mark Travis Rivera, the professional storyteller. I believe that we must embrace the power of stories to create a more inclusive world. So, this series aims to share perspectives, insights, and stories from professionals around the world about the role that resistance and resilience plays in our personal and professional lives. So, tune in, listen up, take notes, and recognize our shared humanity. This is The Shift. Yes. Hey y'all, hello. I am so excited for today's conversation. I have known this human, gosh, it's going to be nearly 15 years. That's a long time.
It
Um,
is.
my
You've been
mis-
blessed.
you are very patient with me because Lord knows I'm a lot. Um, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. But yes, we are live, and I'm super excited. And she tagged you in the feed, so you want to share with your network, feel free to do so, Paulaska. It is live. We are on Instagram. Hey, y'all. My name is Mark Travis Rivera. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the CEO and founder of The Professional Storyteller, where I embrace the power of stories to create a more inclusive world. And I do that through 5 pillars of activities: choreography, coaching, consulting, speaking, and writing. And I really want to help create a world where every single human being can embrace their story and actually use their story to help us recognize our shared humanity. The Shift, now on season 3, if you're following along since year 1 of my business, it is now a multi-platform series available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and you can watch the video in its entirety on YouTube. And so if you are someone that wants to see our beautiful faces, YouTube and Spotify has the video. If you just want to hear our beautiful voices, you can check it out audio format only on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Please, if you are part of the Shifters community, people who are committed to creating a shift, a positive shift in our world, rate, share, and promote this show. It is a labor of love, lots of work, and it helps when we can get folks to spread the word. So thank you in advance. Um, let's jump on in. The series theme for this year and the years ahead will be stories of resistance and resilience. There is so much happening in the US right now. There's so much happening in the world, but in terms of US politics and the social and political climate right now feels pretty intense, to say the least. And I couldn't think of a better guest to have to talk about what it means to be fearless than my dear friend, my brother sister, aka Brista, my colleague, my nephew's baby mama. Wait, no,
You say it.
my nephew's baby. No, my nephew's mama. Yes, there we go. Oh Lord, I always think about baby daddy stuff, so it's a little twisty. But I am so excited to introduce and welcome my sister friend, my fantastic colleague, and literally one of my favorite humans in the world. And you'll hear and know why once you hear this conversation with her today. And so I'm going to read her formal bio because she knows how I do. I like to keep things profesh in these streets. Okay, did I not slow this down? I swear I did. The telephone been moving so quick, y'all. How y'all do that? All right. Paulaska S. Ramirez is a dynamic speaker, educator, advocate with over a decade of experience in higher education, leadership development, and organizational transformation. As the founder and executive director of Generation Fearless, a nonprofit, and CEO of Fearless Impact Collective, she empowers first generation individuals, women of color, college students, and professionals to navigate new spaces with confidence and purpose. Through her work in higher education and consulting, Paulaska specializes in leadership development, professional growth, and cross cultural and generational communication. She partners with individuals, groups, and organizations to foster resilience, amplify voices, and drive sustainable impact. She's a passionate mentor and facilitator committed to advancing equity, access, and transformational changes across communities and industries. And she's my guest here on The Shift. Welcome, Paulaska Ramirez.
Honey, it's an honor. When you read that, I'm like, who is he talking about?
I'm talking about you, girl. I'm talking
I
about you,
know.
friend. Hey, friend.
Hey,
I
hey, hey.
first of all, I'll get to the formal questions in a second. I want to read your formal bio. I'm gonna try not to cry because I have way too much makeup
Oh
on.
my God. Don't do
I
that.
am just you have been killing the game, girl. I am just for y'all who don't know, this woman does a million and one things. She has my beautiful, handsome, adorable 2-year-old nephew at home, and her stepson Aiden as well. And she's a mama bear to two young boys who are demanding in different ways. And she is an only child, so her mama that all her mama got is her, so that falls on her plate. And she is an associate director of a college program and runs Generation Fearless and Fearless Impact Collective, as well as being a graduate student earning her doctorate degree. And so it is a lot on your plate, and I'm always in all of you. Um, so I want to just say, who are you outside of the? I mean, I read some of your personal highlights, but who are you outside of the professional highlights I read in your bio? Just put your whole business out there.
You did, right? I'm an open book. So if you see in any other interview or any conversation, I am an open book. Who am I outside of the bio? I'm just a little girl from the hood trying to take the privilege and access that I've been given, that I've earned, to make my ancestors proud, to
Oh,
create
damn it! We
a.
just got started. You're making me cry.
Why
Go ahead.
crying? But that's what it is, right? Who are we outside of these titles that they can go away anytime, right?
Yeah,
And a great friend of mine, Dr. Stephanie Kirkland, in one of her retreats, when they ask us what are our titles and what are our most important roles and all this, and we go into daughter, mother, but those are still things that go away, right? My title in Generation Fearless, God forbid something happens to my mother, but who we are at the core, what we do, that's what's important. So outside, I'm just a little girl from the hood trying to like, hopefully they're looking down and saying, wow, I didn't have the access to education or these levels of privilege, and creating a ripple effect in our community that stays here beyond and continues to grow, right? It's not even about the legacy that I'm building in my name, but that
yeah,
I'm doing work that is hopefully helping others create legacy and having that continuous flow. How do I do it? I cry and pray. I've always said that's always my answer. How you doing? I don't know on
she's
some days.
serious, y'all. She's not even joking. She
It's
cries
not
and
going.
prays.
I cry, I pray, sometimes in that order, sometimes backwards, but you know,
You make it happen. I don't know, like how many times a week do you think you cry on average? She's also a Cancer, for those who know. Yeah,
whatever.
she's a
I'm a
Cancer.
little on him. Child, my baby sidebar was with the book, right? And
Mhm.
he's two, and he's like opening the book, and he's like dog, and I'm like, okay, coincidence, and he's like, Mama, cat, fish. I started bawling, like, cause my baby can recognize these things. So, um, I don't know. And there's some weeks, y'all, if I'm honest, right, we're being fully authentic and transparent. There's some days that I cry every day, a couple times a day,
Mhm.
that I am just overwhelmed, that I am tired, that, sometimes I'm crying because I can't believe the spaces, the conversations. The other day I was in a group chat with some people that I admire, and I'm like, it is 7:30 in the morning. I'm in a group chat with so and so and so and so. Again, just this little girl from the hood trying to like have an impact, support, provide in whatever way she can. So, but
Yeah,
sometimes it's every day, and sometimes I don't. People won't think that I'm just boohooing all the time, but sometimes it's two tears, and you wipe it off, and then you got
yeah,
to handle business because
yeah. Because
we got
life
work to
happens,
do.
and you got work to do.
Yeah.
I asked every guest this question, and so I'm going to ask you, and I've been looking forward to your response to this
Uh
question.
oh.
No pressure, um, because I think you just embody it so well.
Mm.
So, what is your personal concept of resistance and resilience?
Ooh.
Y'all, I've been sending my guests these questions in advance. They just act like because they don't actually read through the whole run of show shock, but they
I
know the
skimmed through
question.
it this morning. I told him, y'all, I don't prepare for any of it because you get what you get. I'm not getting close to
No,
40, y'all. I am who I am all the time. This is me.
yes, it's
Maybe a little bit
Paulaska.
more sass, a little less, a little crying here or there.
Yes,
But with interviews, I don't know. Prepping for an answer,
No, I
then
don't
there's
necessarily think you have to prep. I never prep, or I just think about it and like think of talking points, but I never like write down my answers or anything in advance. But I'm prepared for them in that way,
oh
in the
yeah,
sense that
no.
I.
I saw it this morning, but now you asked it, and I'm like, ooh,
Uh huh.
resisting.
Yeah. What is your personal concept of resistance and resilience?
I think it might be such a simple, but doing, and I guess the best way of explaining them is stories, right? But I think of who my mother thought I was going to be, right? Who my grandmother hoped I could be, in these different in education, as a mother, as a daughter, as a leader in our community. And there is resistance and resilient in every single step of all of that, right? Because I try to be nothing of what they imagine and a whole lot more than that. If that even makes sense, right? And in the same way that I say that I'm what my mom is most disappointed in and most proud of, because most disappointed because I just shared I'm going to be 39 this year with a 2-year old, and there's all
Oh
these
yeah,
cultural things that I don't fall in line with that I am full resisting, and not because I don't see their value and I don't appreciate them, but that is not who I am, and that is not what determines my value in my relationship in my community, whether we're talking about language or making his plate first, or you know what I mean, running through everything of the man of the house. That's just not how, and not because I don't value and respect the culture or my partner. That's just not how I move. That's just not how it works, right?
yeah.
But resilience in everything that we do, right? Resilience in that. I was talking to somebody about, and I read the book recently, Rest is Resilience.
Mm.
Um, and not resilience, sorry.
Rest
Oh
is
my God, Rest is
resistance.
Resistance. There we
Yes.
go.
Yes.
And in that, right, of creating my own path, defining what that looks like, realigning and redefining that as I go. And saying, you know what, like this is something that is fully important to me in my culture and my values. And I'm taking this part of it, and there's other parts that it's just we're gonna keep it moving. And how, I don't know. And I think that's where resilience comes in. Being born and raised in a small urban community, single parent, low income. I woman of color. I don't know what it is not to be resilient. I don't think that we're wired to be anything but that,
Right.
which can come sometimes as a burden, but at the same time is why we're able to achieve the great things that we're able to achieve in our immediate household and for our community, because I don't think any other way. I'm always thinking of my people, and my people always is first gen. It's women. It's low income. It's first gen. That is always at the forefront.
Yeah.
And equally as important as my family and kids. Howard the other day was like, I think Generation Fearless is as equally important than Adrian and yeah, it is. It is a different love. Don't get me wrong, and they
Yeah.
are our priority. But I invest myself fully in everything.
Yeah. And Howard is her partner, y'all. 'Cause she just
Yeah,
named
that's
Howard.
babe.
So that's
Yes,
really,
that's
so
my
that's
babe who
really
deals with all my crying and crazy.
okay. Listen, he is a saint in my eyes because
Yes, he
anyone
is.
that can deal with you 21st baby deserves all the awards.
He is
Uh,
a saint, but he is lucky to have me by his side. Let's not
yeah,
get
he
to
is.
stuff
Let's not get it
confused.
twisted, okay? You both are winning in this situation.
Absolutely.
I love me some Howard. Howard made the
Yes.
impossible happen. Howard made you a
Oh
mama.
my God. Whatever.
So, I'm happy about that. And I have to say, and I was talking to Jennifer, my sister, yesterday night, and I was just like, girl, the top two people in the FBI are election deniers, believe J6 writers should have been pardoned, and have no FBI experience. And I feel like a lot of us right now are experiencing what I think of as compounded fear due to the various issues happening all at once. And that's by design, right? They want to overwhelm us. They want to make us feel like we can't do anything, that we have to shut down and just accept that our democracy is becoming an autocracy. Um, how do you think this time in our country and the amount of fear that we have will impact the next generation? Because the whole point of Generation Fearless is to raise a generation of first gen professionals and women of color to be fearless in pursuit of their dreams and their purpose. how do you think this time in our country will have an impact later on?
I think we've been here before.
Mm,
I think that we've never left these spaces of having to prove ourselves, of being on guard, of being required to think of every scenario and for everything, right? And being in higher education, being in nonprofit, every time there is an alert of what is being taken away, what is, you know what I mean? There is a freeze, and then hoping in prayer that a judge comes in and tells people and redirects them, but
yeah,
understanding that even though an executive order doesn't mean an immediate action, there's people taking immediate actions that
yeah,
impact my community, right? And that looking, like I said, I talk a lot about it, the power of intersectionality, right? That's where my superpower comes from. But all parts of me in this moment, like you're saying, are under attack, right? The woman of color, the first gen, the low income, and that woman like that understand what this means in our communities, right? With immigration, with the attack on DEI and everything else. I think we have access to education in a very different way and power in a very different way. So I think it's going to move us to, if we are smart, right, to unite in a way that we have not united before. And we've been here before, like I said, in regards to the challenges, the oppression, and certain things we haven't, we label things, we move them around. We put one or two people on the front lines and we put them on a commercial and we say that we are, inclusive and friendly, but that has not moved when we're
yeah.
looking at corporations. That's not looking. So I think right now
You
the
know,
impact is going to be is how are we intentional in understanding the power of our dollars and our voice, and
mm,
how do we unite in order to make that move? Because so posting something on social media doesn't become enough, and it's us understanding the young folks, you know what I mean, and not being that old person, but understanding that me posting something doesn't, it helps, right? It creates more understanding, but that has to come with action attached to it. So
yeah.
I think that if we're able to, as the people, those that are allies, those that are directly impacted, say, hey, this is what the stance that we're going to take,
Yeah.
that we'll be okay. We have to believe and understand that we're going to be okay.
And
But it
I
doesn't.
appreciate your optimism because last night, girl, I was not optimistic. I was
Oh,
like,
I'm not. I don't feel optimistic all the time, but we have to look at reality, right?
right, because I'm just like, we're on the fast track to all hell breaking loose. And the
Absolutely.
thing is that, and you're right, we have been here before, but not in my lifetime. I mean, to think
No.
that, I mean, not that you're much older than me, but like in our
No. Be
lifetimes,
careful.
okay, I know. In our lifetimes, we didn't have to endure the civil rights era, the gay rights era, the women's suffragists, right? All the labor movement, because that was all before we were even on this earth, right? And so it's hard for me to imagine that in the good old 2025, the country is digressing so far back that it is now okay for people to have less rights and be just openly discriminated against. And it's now okay for women not to have reproductive agency over their bodies or people who have children. It is now okay for, a convicted felon to be president. Like, it is just like wild to me that for years, being a convicted felon meant you couldn't get jobs, right? And they did that as a result of the war on drugs, where they disproportionately incarcerated black men and Latinos, and they did that, and they created that caveat because they wanted to create a class disparity, right? And what I'm realizing more and more as I've gotten older, because I was still in high school the first time Obama ran for president, and I couldn't vote for the first time until after his during his second term. And I remember thinking to myself, "Oh my gosh, who is this man who came out of nowhere? This charismatic, intelligent, handsome man who just came out of nowhere and just blew ahead in the primaries to beat out who we all thought was going to be the next nominee, which was Hillary Clinton." And now in hindsight, looking back, I recognize that America was ready to elect a black man first, than to elect a woman as president,
Absolutely.
and that we allowed their strong opposition or their endorsement of Obama to make us believe we're in a post-racial society, but it wasn't that. It was the equivalent of like, listen, if we rather not have either one of them, but if we're gonna have anyone, it has to be a man, right? And sexism is so ingrained in our culture and our politics and our country, and yet people are not thinking about that. And so when they're attacking DEI and affirmative action, they're attacking the very things that have helped women in this country of all shades for eons, right? And so it's interesting to me that sexism, and this is my gender and sexuality hat coming on. Dr. Scala would be very proud of me.
He
You
would
know
be.
that sexism is still so pervasive today, and yet not enough people are talking about it.
And when you're saying right, we were not part of these major movements that we read in our history books that they gave us a glimpse of, right?
Thank
They
God we
gave
grew up
us,
in a time when history books were accurate, because now look what they're doing.
but were they accurate, right?
Oh,
I if we're looking at, I think that that's what we need to look at in general. There is so much that was performative, and I was
mm,
having again a conversation with someone. It was the false sense of, because if we look at it, a lot of spaces, what psychological safety did we have as people of these marginalized communities in these mainstream locations? Right. So just because you have a policy on your page and you do some programs to support part of women, LGBT, those were all things that were performative, right? I think this is America showing its true colors of what is important to them, which at the end of the day is power and capitalism, but it's also showing that we aren't the brightest when it comes to making the, and there is no way I think of saying that, right? And it's the American culture of I, right? And even thinking of within our own communities, right? And outside of looking at just the election, right? But looking at, I am not undocumented, so that doesn't impact me. I am not part of any social service, so that doesn't impact me. And all of a sudden, some of us forgetting where we come from,
mm,
forgetting the systemic issues that are across the board that impact. So no, I am not on food stamps. I don't have Medicaid. I don't. Paulaska does it, but do I know a million other people that do? Yes. Have my family had to use some type of services at some point? They have to. So to sit in this high horse, and I think we forget that, right? And we're looking at immigration.
mm.
Oh my God! Well, they're going to take the criminals, baby. We are all criminals to the folks on the other side that don't understand. So you know what I mean? Not fully understanding and being so I is, I think, what creates so much of the challenge of this lack of empathy and understanding. This impacts, okay, it's not impacting this part of me, but it's going to impact another.
Yeah.
And we'd see it, yes, with DI. Well, this is just because, unfortunately, the full attack on the Black community, but we're not looking at, yes, women and white women who have been the major uh, group that has been benefiting, right? But also looking like the ramp for your grandmama comes because of this. Your child get an IEP because of this,
Okay.
right? You are able to
As a
get digital
disabled,
books.
right? As a person who is multi marginalized, or I like to say multifaceted across multiple intersections, I
It's
am
the
a brown, queer, disabled, low income, first generation high school college graduate. Right? I'm Puerto Rican, so uh, we're considered U.S. citizens. And I think about, and my sister was talking about this too. Shout out to Jennifer, my sister, by the way. I don't think she's
Hi
in the
girl.
room. Hey, Jen. And she was like, everyone just cares about what impacts them directly. And she was saying, I'm not on those benefits right now, or I don't need those things. Or she's like, my daughter luckily lives in a state where if she needs to have abortion access, she could. My daughter's about to graduate college, and so all these different things, right? So she's like, it's not directly impacting me. And then she was like, and I was like, it's impacting me. I was like, and she was like, yeah, but I've always been afraid for you. She's like, I've always been afraid that the world was going to kill you or attack you because you're visibly queer and because you're different. Right. And so I said to her, I was like, okay, well, I didn't always feel that way. Now I feel even more intense fear because now I'm just like, can I go in that group setting? I mean, I'm a very hyper vigilant person because of obviously being true to myself puts a bullseye on my back. Um, but it really is sad how many people of color her running joke was in the hood. She kept seeing all these Trump signs, and that's how she knew Trump was going to win. Because I had never seen so many Trump signs in the hood, and I was like, "Listen, girl,
Make no sense to me whatsoever.
but it goes back to what you were saying, right? This individualism, and I said
Right.
of all the things that colonization and white supremacy culture robbed from indigenous and black and brown folks, I think that it really deprived us of our tribal communal way of being. And
Hmm.
it took this concept of being an individual, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Bro, I know many people who don't have boots to pull up their bootstraps with.
Correct. Correct. Some
Right?
people don't have boots. We all have different quality books.
Right.
Boots. Some people don't have shoestrings.
Right.
Like some people got new ones or get new ones each year. Like, and that is this thing of not understanding. And just because, and it, right. And I was again speaking to somebody else, and they're like, you are so like in tune and acknowledge so much of your privilege, and it must. It's because it's someone that doesn't have all this privilege, right? So I find that I was able to go to college a privilege. The fact that I speak English a privilege. The fact that I can advocate, the fact that I am comfortable in my skin, whether I was a size 22 or now, whether my hair is straight. Again, Pulaska is Pulaska. Those are privileges and comfort that come through sacrifice, through ancestors, all these other things, right? But
Yeah.
these are privileges. But I think there's so many people with privilege forget and don't acknowledge what they have. Again, I don't
And I
have
call it
immigration problems, but I
positional.
think of that
I think of it,
community.
yeah, I think of it, to your point around positionality, right? Like,
Yes.
Carmen Ortiz is the woman who accepted me into college, and I had a 2.0, uh, and she was on the fence about me. And it was this old woman named Betty, Miss Betty, who kept
Hmm.
pushing Carmen to meet me. And Carmen was like, I don't know, Betty. She's like, no, you gotta meet Mark. You gotta just listen to his story. And Betty didn't know me. All Betty knew was that my guidance counselor told her I was worth taking a chance on. And shout out to Miss Bria, Miss Betty. And then Carmen interviewed me. I think she interviewed me twice before she made her mind up. And then I met you, and you're like, "Who is this person?" And you were like very, because she's an alum of the program, so she gets a little territorial. And now she's like the second mother of the program. But back in those days when you were just starting out, and it's so interesting to me because I always say there would be no me without the we. There would be no Mark Travis Rivera, the professional storyteller, without my mother, my sister, my godmother Nani or Rosie, right? Mentors and educators along the way, Carmen Ortiz, right? Arlene Scala, Wartina Davis, right? All these people who, Aaron Pride, right? All these people, Liz Grossman, right? All these people who just, Sally Kane, all these people who just kept pouring into me, right? And Paulaska Ramirez, right? And this leads to my second question, which is, you know, you and I you're one of my chosen sisters. We've known each other for nearly 15 years, which is really wild to me because in my head we're still young and dope and
We
having
are.
drinks at Jimmy G's, but now that's not so much the case. Um, and you are also one of my trusted colleagues. However, in private, you and I have had so many conversations about our fears and doubts stemming from being first generation. And I wanted to ask you this, given the work that you do with first gen, how do you overcome the fears and doubts that often pop up for you and I in moments when we're just like, did that really just happen? We can't believe that just happened. Holy shit. And we talk about this like on a regular cadence because it's like pitch me moments. Like when I met Oprah, when you gave that major workshop presentation at that major conference that you didn't even realize how major it was, right? And all of the things in between, right? The fact that you and I were both part of my first campaign, national campaign, where you styled me and we got to fly to LA and be a part of that red carpet together. And, like all of these things that, right? And to this day, I still deal with, I can't believe this is my life. And I know that I work every day, and I know you work every day to make this life your reality. But how do you overcome the self doubt, the imposter syndrome, and sometimes it's not imposter syndrome. And I want to say because you and I are not imposter. We know we the shit. We know we have skills, right? We have a track record, a proven track record of being good at our work. That's not what scares me. That's not my issue personally, and that's not your issue. I know that. I think for me, sometimes I doubt that I'm worthy of the life I prayed for. So how do you deal with that doubt and that fear?
Real quick on imposter syndrome is things you already know how I feel about it because it
Right,
doesn't acknowledge the systemic challenges
right,
that pour into this.
right,
And it puts the onus on us and not on what the problem actually is.
right.
I think one of the things that is the most important is your tribe. I think that we need to acknowledge that we are human, but just back we were talking about early in community, it is not I don't get to do all the things that I have the privilege of doing because of me. I do it because mommy took the baby, because Howard let me go to that meeting, because when I cried, you picked up the phone and told me it was going to be okay. It's the person that said, "Hey, what is Generation Fearless?" and here's $50. You know what I mean? I think it's step one is making sure, and last year I started saying, okay, well, the board of directors of Paulaska, right? And creating that space of who is there for what, because you don't want to be a burden on folks, but understanding that we need community. And for me, the most important is when there is self doubt, and you having people that are in tune. Mark called last week and he said something wrong. like, and I was like, yo, this has been an overwhelming
Oh, you mean
week.
me when I called you up last week?
Yeah, you
Oh,
called
so
me
I was
last week.
like, who are you talking about? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you called me last week and you were in tune that something was off and nothing bad. It was just
It
like I
wasn't
was
bad. It's just
overwhelmed.
something. Yeah, something was
Did
happening.
I meet with a producer about a documentary? That is crazy. And
Yeah.
like, does March look crazy? Am I speaking at a school? Am I doing this? Did someone just jump into an opportunity based on our program? Is someone life feeling that there is hope and shift based on attending things that we have created and now have community because of us? That is just overwhelming. And sometimes,
Well, that's the power of you using your story and your experiences. And I mean,
don't cry.
I heard Oprah say this to Yari, the actress from Blackish, during her Oprah Superstar Conversations at the Apollo in 2017, which is the day I met her. And she told her that Maya had said something like this, and she said, "Your future is so bright it burns my eyes."
Hmm.
And
Come
when I
on,
think about
Jesus.
you, Palaska,
Hmm.
that same feeling. Your future is so bright, it burns my eyes. And we have this running joke that if I ever get to get interviewed by Oprah, that you would be my publicist, my stylist. And then recently, I was just like, "Well, girl, you might beat me to that dream." So I'm like, if that happens,
Yeah.
I'm your stylist, right? Because we made a promise to each other. No matter who your baby daddy is, no matter who your best friends
Oh
are,
my God.
I don't care. Nobody, no me.
Sorry, it's Shard and Brandon. He said he going first.
It's me. I mean, it has to be right because we've manifested this, right?
Yes, amen.
And so, and I say that to say that I have seen you grow into the woman that you are,
Hmm.
where you can step in your fearlessness and in your calling with such intention that I get so emotional because I know the journey it took to get you there. And,
Absolutely.
I have many friends and many folks in my life, but you are quite you're part of the Pin 9 group text messages in my phone, and
You're
you are
part
part
of
of
the
the top
Pin
9.
Nine too.
Am I?
Yes. Oh
Last
my
number
God.
one text messages. I didn't even know she pinned messages.
I don't respond to nobody. Everybody takes it so personal. I don't respond. I'll be drained. You do not just go over the list.
Yes,
But
yes,
back to your answer, back to Andrew. I think
yeah,
it's community,
yeah.
right? It's being able to have that. And sometimes the feelings are real. Sit in the feelings. Something yesterday, it was a day I just needed to see my baby because I got to remember I got bills and
Uh-huh.
who I'm working for. Sometimes it is just I was like, what's wrong? And I'm just like, I just need to see him for a minute. Okay. And then I cried. I was overwhelmed. I closed my office door and I cried for a minute. And it's just, then it was like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
Right? Why? Because I'm prepared, because I'm in alignment with who I am. And for people, right, she's doing so much, and I am in all these lanes. I'm in every single lane grounded in the same work, advocating for my people, doing stuff for first gen, making sure I'm a voice, making sure there is a ripple effect. So yes, I work with corporate folks. Yes, I work in higher education. Yes, I work with first gen. Yes, we're talking about who we are and the core of who we are because that's important, regardless of what space I am in, right? That doesn't change for me.
You are
And that is yeah, that is me. And of course, I've always said this, is there a tone down a little bit more if I'm speaking to the provost or the president? Absolutely. I understand, but my hair's still going to look like this. I'm still having my big glasses. The
your
neck may
hoops.
snap my hand. Yeah, sometimes I wear my big hoops because at the core it is advocating for something and doing something that is not for me. It's not for nothing I do is for the benefit of Palaska. It is for that ripple effect that will be here and change generations and change the generations in that immediate family, right? That's my work directly in higher education, but it is for the first gen women that I work with. It is for the people that are in corporate spaces, right? Because they supervise and connect with folks that
Yeah.
have kids, that have responsibility. So I think it's so important to sometimes when I feel, and you hear me say this, I'm feeling that life. Like I am
Yeah.
here behind, and it's just like, but you did that. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to pick what is that one thing and saying, but I did that. I spoke at this big conference, or I got an email, or, I had the courage. We talked about I had the courage to apply to my TEDx. I don't need to get it. God hope, I get it. But I just needed to have the courage to apply and to remind myself that I'm worthy of being in that space.
Yes.
And that's it. And sometimes it's just taking a leap of,
And
I belong
and you know what's so funny? Because back in the day, you were one of the people that used to bust my balls
all the
about
time.
about about how self-promotional I was and how because I've always had a deep knowing since I was a young child
Yeah.
that I was going to be a writer, a storyteller. When I look at my middle school my high school yearbook, I was consistent throughout my entire life. I always knew I was meant to be a storyteller. There was a deep knowing in me. And I didn't realize how uncommon that is for folks not to have that knowing until I started coaching over the last couple of years and meeting with folks. And they're like, Mark, how did you get this deep knowing? And tomorrow I'm guest lecturing at Pratt University, the Pratt Institute, to the entrepreneur class, a group of students who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs after they graduate. And it is a privilege of mine, right? And I remember back in the day, you used to tell me, "Well, you're so self promotional, and why do you?" And I was like, "Paulaska, I'm being who I am. I'm fully actualized in who I am, what my purpose is." And now I see you doing those same things. I'm just like, she is now fully actualized in her purpose, and you understand. And
Like
it's
you when I grew up, there's certain things, there are conversations, that I call you, I'm like, how would Mark do this? Because I am still, and not that I ever, my coach says, she's like, you don't doubt your skill and your work. No, I know what I bring to the table. That
right,
is never a question. But it is, how do I charge my people for this? Or, you know what I mean? What does that may look like in this? I don't ever want to look like, right? Because we don't care about what other people think, but we do care about how this impacts our community
right,
and how this impacts who we are representing, even though we are not. I don't walk in a space and say I represent all first gen, all like all women, all Latinas. But if I'm in a space and I am one and only, then I do. And
right,
how does that look like, right? And trying
yeah.
to navigate. But I want to be like
And
you when I grow
also,
up.
so funny. And thank you, you're kind. But also, what I appreciate about us. And I think that, and this goes back to your answer about the tribe. Like, listen, you have seen me at my worst. You have seen me at my best. You have seen me in my in between. You have heard me sleep at night. You know I snore, right? You know me, right? You know me in so many different layers of me. And you know that I'm always
Privilege.
imperfect, loud, emotional, but my heart is always deeply loving and always praying for folks and always pushing folks. And I made the decision this year, in the year of Bloom, that I was going to be intentional with my form of resistance, being that I was going to work with vendors and folks in my various communities. So if you don't look like me in some way or have some kind of shared identity, you're not getting the priority for that potential opportunity.
Agreed.
I'm going
That's
to
how I move.
reinvest the money into my community. More now than ever, we need to be deliberate with our consumption, what we consume in terms of media, what we read, and what we buy, right? And where we spend our dollars. And so, last week, I had a great conversation with Dr. about like not everyone can board Target for various reasons, right? Not everyone
Yeah.
can stop using Amazon, and I'm one of those people, right? But I can be deliberate with how I use my money. I can be deliberate, right? And so you are one of my professional storytellers, aka collaborators, a group of consultants that I'm adding to my pitch deck that reflect my various lived experiences. Because here's the thing, as one, I can only do so much, right? But together we're stronger. Together we can do more. And if my mission is to embrace the power of stories to create a more inclusive world so we can envision a world where every person embraces their story, I need to empower, equip, and support others like yourself who are using storytelling, whether you consider yourself a storyteller or not, right? That's a different conversation, right? But you're using the modality of storytelling to make that difference happen, right? And then suddenly it becomes a pebble, a ripple effect, right? And suddenly you're doing it, I'm doing it, and all these different people are doing it. And next thing you know, we have a whole generation of fearless people who are embracing the power of their story.
And taking up space, right? And being comfortable taking up space.
Yeah.
I think that's where the power comes in, right? And it comes, I always say again, the intersectionality of who I am is the superpower. But for people to hear and understand that is so important because, and I still struggle with it, right? Understanding that I am not perfect in any way, shape, or form. And some days, no, I say I'm failing at life and I don't feel that I am good enough and that I'm smart enough and I'm having a big enough impact, but on most days, right, I'm trying to do an 80-20, understanding that I've earned the space and I take up the entire space when I walk in, right? Because I deserve to, but somebody might be at that 20% that day and needs to see somebody taking up the whole space to be like, okay, I am enough. I am
Yeah.
worthy. I belong. My
Yes.
story matters too, because
Yes.
one of my board members says there's always threads. There's always threads that keep us together, that keep us connected. And I see this with Generation Fearless, where in any audience, in any event that you may come into, we're going to have somebody that is a senior in college and somebody that retired. We're having that wide range, and people are like, well, you should narrow down your audience. I don't want to. That is my audience,
Yeah.
because there's so much that I am learning from working in higher ed, right? The hat is a little bit different from those young people that are in the room and how they see the world and how they are motivated and what keeps it. And the same thing for our middle to our people that are retired and saying, I wish I had the opportunity for this, but now I have the time. And
Mm.
to see someone in their 20s finding their voice and finding their oomph is beautiful. But to see a woman that is seasoned, that has been through life,
Mm.
who has now at 50, 60, you know what I mean, said, this is who I am. There is beauty across that. And we need to see that and understand that there's the evolution of who we are. I've always
Absolutely.
been Paulaska, but
Yes.
who Paulaska has been after 30 is one thing. And who Paulaska has been after Adrian, let me tell you, I ain't got it for nothing, no one, because I'm
Yes.
somebody's mama now. Like,
Yes.
that is just,
You a mother,
and I'm
honey.
trying to
You a whole
move.
mother.
And I see a vision for my community in a very different way, in the support that I did not see, right? When I thought of Generation Fearless in the beginning, it was small. It was to impact Jersey. It was supposed to impact my direct tribe. And that's not what the vision has evolved to, right? That is not who we've evolved to as an organization. When right now, which we talked about, right? We have an event in Portland coming up. We're having an event in Miami. We have online events. We're looking at, you know what I mean, in person in Jersey. We're looking at international. The need is there. The story is important. It needs to be told so we can all feel connected and united. So,
Yeah. And you
it's
know,
all layered.
I'm always rooting for you and praying for you.
Thank you.
And
Same.
I'm always speaking your name in rooms you may not be in,
Thank
even when
you.
I don't tell you. Um, because I think it's so important, right? And I think for me, and again, this goes back to, building resilience and resistance as a collective, right? Like, so that when you're at that 20%, I can be at that 80. I can support you. I can call you when the spirit tells me
Yeah.
something's off. And it wasn't necessarily a bad off. It was just something's off.
Soft.
I need to talk to her. Right. And I'm like that with a handful of folks. I can sense it. And it's a weird, not weird. It's a gift that a lot of people don't understand how I have it. I don't know how I have it. But I can sense with certain people in my life, if you are someone deeply, like someone I deeply care about, I can sense in a physiological way that something's wrong with you. And so I will reach out and call you or send you a voice memo. And, my one friend says, you're always on time. And I was like, I may not always be there when you call, but I'm always on time. Okay. And so I want to know a little bit about like, what do you hope to shift in society through your work? Because you're doing so many amazing things on the national level now with Generation Fearless. What do you hope to shift in society through your work? What do you hope your impact will be, your legacy?
It is what I've been saying our whole conversation. I want people to understand that the intersectionality of their identity is their superpower. That all of those experiences are
Oh,
exactly what you. Oh, what happened?
I think you froze on my end.
Oh, am I not frozen? Can you
You're
see
not
the
frozen
jiggle?
on. I can see you jiggling.
Okay.
Start that
Well,
over.
I was
Let's
saying,
start over.
yes, that what I said, what I've been saying the whole entire time, that the intersectionality of your identity is your superpower. If we were to walk in all our spaces understanding that, and understanding that for ourselves, and these amazing, not having for basic needs has made me so much more empathetic and understanding. Being an only child and being responsible for my mother and my grandmother. And I shared this the other day, and people that were there understand. We had an event, and 5 minutes before we had a 3 day event, and 5 minutes before I needed to present, I got the call that my grandmother was dying. And I still needed to go on and present, understanding that my mom was by herself 45 minutes away and then my grandmother was taking her. Those are things. Right now we have 5 events coming up, and there's nothing that's going to shake Paulaska because my worlds fell apart and I needed to continue. Right. And I think taking those experiences and shifting them to understanding the power and the lessons is what we need so we can create the shift in the communities that are important to us. That I can have the young folks back in Passaic, you know what I mean? The women, everybody that is of any marginalized community, remember their power and walk into space, taking up space, understanding what that power is.
Yeah.
And, that's what I feel that we get to do with Generation Fearless. We have transformative events. There are things that you need to be at. There are 1 day retreat that you leave a different person. It is alive that you leave a different person. And that's what I want. I want people to see their power, to see the beauty in what they do, in order for us to then be able to find that gray space to work together, because that's where the beauty is,
Yes.
right? So that's all I want.
I love that, Paulaska. Thank you so much. And y'all can check out her work at generationfearless.org. Become a monthly donor,
Please and
$5,
thank you.
$10, $25 a month. Every little bit helps, or you can make a one-time donation of $100.
Come on, Jesus.
So put some money
You
where
can
your
volunteer,
you
connect, just be part of the
volunteer, be
community.
part if you're a
Yes.
first gen woman and you want to be part of the board, please reach out to Palaska, and I'll add all that information on the show notes. And um, I just want to let folks know that next week we're taking off on the 4th. Like we take 3 live conversations a month, and then episodes drop every week because we cause the intentional delay in the release of episodes so that even when we're not having a live conversation, you're getting the redistribution of a former conversation. So you're getting new content every week. Shout out to myself for thinking of that. One man show most of the time here. And so I'm just really thankful that you are my Brista. I'm thankful that you are my sister friend, that you are the mother to my nephew Adrian. I am thankful for all that you represent, and all the possibility and all the ways that you make a difference in this world. And I would say that my fashion sense has gotten greater since you've been in my life. And you will always be my go to for all things fashion and entrepreneurship. Um,
You.
I love you so much, and yeah, your future is so bright it burns my eyes, Palaska. I'm good. I'm
Come
not.
on,
I'm not
Jesus.
start texting your assistant in the future. Be like, please tell Palaska that her brother gay wants to say
Oh my
hello.
God. Could you stop?
What? Because you have straight brothers, the bros.
Oh my God.
I'm the brother
I
gay.
love them too.
Gay. I know you love all your friends. You
I
love all of
do.
us equally. I feel like I feel very.
Correct. I'm just saying, when somebody's like, well, oh my God, I'm like, I hadn't seen Brandy since May, and Brandy lives around the corner.
That's perfect.
Like,
Because life is too short.
yes,
You want to make sure you live.
yes.
And here's the thing. So I'm just ending with this note, y'all. There is so much bad happening. There's so much going on. We're always so busy. But one of the things I hope that people will be able to say once I'm gone, when they can replay those voice memos or watch those old reels I sent them because it made me think of them, or read those old text messages or those handwritten notes I sent people, that they know that they were loved by me so deeply that when I thought of them, I reached out. And so, no matter how busy we get in life, no matter how stressed out we are, make time for your tribe, make time for the people you love, because that love has sustained me and you in ways
Mhm.
we can't even begin to express in this short time frame. And so, love on your people, love on yourself, be fearless in pursuit of your life's calling, and know that you are enough. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank y'all so
Thank
much for being here. We're
you.
gonna wrap up a little bit early because I have another meeting and I need to eat something, and Pulaski needs to eat lunch too. So yes, I'm really, really excited. But y'all, be sure to tune in to The Shift wherever you stream your podcast, or you can watch it on YouTube. You can like, rate, share, and leave comments on the episodes.
Tell us what
Let
you
us
think.
know what you think. Okay. We just dropped today. We just dropped Amber Cabral's episode, which I love the title for. It's called "Humaning Well When All Goes to Hell." It is
Love it. Love it.
and she's the host and of the Human podcast, which also is a new podcast she just released recently. So be sure to support the work. I am a for-profit entity, and so you don't have to donate to me, but you can hire me. So if you're looking for a coach, a speaker, a consultant, reach out to me. Email me at hello@marktraversrivera.com. And from all of us here at Generation Fearless and TPS, have a great day. Be fearless and be well.